If you're watching this video, you probably know a thing or two about cookware, or at least what the majority of cookware is made out of. You know, stuff like stainless steel, aluminum, cast iron, and well, maybe even enameled cast iron. But what about tin? Tin is a very special type of lining for cookware that's rare these days. It's usually reserved for very high-end pots and pans with a very high-end price tag to match. So what's so special about tin-lined cookware, and does it deserve a place in your kitchen? Today I'm going to give you all the answers. Hello and welcome to I Want to Cook. My name is Chef Matt and this channel is all about helping you be a better cook. And boy, do we have some special cookware that we are focusing on today. We are focusing on tin-lined cookware like this Bomaloo pot that I recently purchased. And I hope I'm saying that name correctly. This Bomaloo pot actually came about via some deja vu in that I found it at, of all places, a discount store, just like I did this Maviel pan last year. In fact, I found this one at the very same store at a TJ Maxx as this Maviel pan that I reviewed last year. Now, this Bomaloo usually retails for I think like over $100 and I bought it for $25. Now, like this Maviel pan, this Bomaloo has a copper exterior and is handmade in France. But unlike this particular Maviel that has stainless steel lining, this has tin. And this tin lining makes this piece very rare. In fact, this is my first piece of tin-lined cookware, and there's a couple reasons why I hadn't purchased any before. Well, first off, it's usually wildly expensive, and secondly, tin has kind of a reputation for being a finicky metal, which I'll get into soon. But tin-lined cookware such as this still definitely has its devotees, and there are several reasons why. Well, chief among them is that many consider this to be the best cookware material in the world. But is it for you? Now, amid those cookware materials that I mentioned earlier, like this stainless steel pan, a tin cookware such as this is a rarity these days. But that wasn't always the case. In fact, tin-lined cookware predates stainless steel by hundreds of years. Nowadays, though, tin-lined cookware is highly exclusive and it can cost a small fortune. And there's a couple reasons why. Well, first of all, it's handmade, and second of all, it lines copper. Both of those factors make for expensive propositions, and well, other than individual artisans, the companies making this stuff are very high-end. Companies like Maviel and, well, Bomaloo, which in all honesty I had never heard of until I purchased this pot. But from what I can tell, they're a pretty respected brand. Now, if you can even find tin-lined cookware, it's almost guaranteed to have a copper exterior. That's because tin naturally bonds with copper. They're like two best friends. Once tin gets hot enough and turns molten, it can then be poured into the copper casing and smeared and swirled, where it creates a strong intermetallic layer. This process is known as a chemical bonding versus the mechanical one used for stainless steel, which has to be kind of smashed and sandwiched together to form its bond. And in case you're wondering, I am going to make a future video on tin versus stainless steel, so stay tuned for that. Now, as you might know, copper is an extremely conductive metal. It gets hot fast and it cools down fast, as we found out when I reviewed this Maviel pan and we made those delicious scallops in it. Now, this might also be a good time for a remedial lesson in copper, because as good as copper is, well, it's toxic when you cook with it. So you can't just put food on copper and cook. You have to line it with something. So in this case, it's stainless steel, and well, in this pot, it's tin. Tin, however, is non-toxic, it's non-porous, it's perfectly suitable to cook on. Sounds familiar, right? It sounds like this stainless steel. But the biggest difference is that tin is even way more conductive. In fact, this is possibly the most conductive pan I have ever worked with. So to test this out, I made a reduction sauce that turned out to be absolutely delicious. It was an apple cider cream reduction sauce, and that was kind of the perfect test bed for this pot. What I needed to do was quickly reduce the sauce to about half its consistency, and this pan was just incredible for that. Within about 15 minutes, my sauce had reduced by half. Then I was able to add some cream, add some spices, and I ended up with a wonderful, creamy apple cider sauce that was just delicious, poured over stuff, or, well, I have to admit, just eaten off a spoon as is. But what was really incredible was as soon as I turned down the flame, the solution stopped simmering, it stopped boiling, and as soon as I flicked that flame back up, well, it came back to a boil very, very quickly. That, my friends, is like conductivity at its best. But you might notice that I'm talking about a gas range in this application because, well, a gas range is also very quick to respond. Now, this pot can be used on an electric range, but of course it's not going to function as well because you have that latency. Once you turn down the heat of an electric range, it doesn't go down as fast as a gas range, nor does it heat up as fast once you notch up the heat. And well, as for an induction range, this thing ain't gonna fly. If you remember from my video on how to know whether your cookware will work on an induction range, you know that you need a ferrous material. You need something that is magnetic, and well, this ain't it. And as great as this tin-lined copper pan is, well, there's other downsides as well aside from the astronomical price tag. And one of the biggest downsides is that tin is a relatively soft metal. It'll actually melt at 450 degrees. So that means if you're doing high heat cooking, high heat searing, maybe you want a tin-lined skillet, it's really not going to be the best for that. And because tin is kind of a softer metal versus stainless steel, that also means you really shouldn't be using metal utensils on it. It's also going to be hand wash only. You don't want to put this in the dishwasher. And as for this piece that has a cast iron handle, well, this handle gets really, really hot. Finally, for long-term planning, if you do want to buy some of this stuff, you should know that eventually the tin does wear out, and you have to have a process known as retinning done, where they actually take your pot or pan and they put a fresh layer of tin in it. And that, like one of these pots or pans itself, is not cheap. Okay, so bottom line, should you buy a tin-lined copper pot like this? Well, first of all, you have to make sure that it's even going to work in your kitchen. So if you have a gas range, then yes, this could be suitable for it. But in all honesty, I consider a pot like this or a pan made of this material really kind of an expert level cookware. I mean, this is not for like the novice cook who might still be kind of finding their way around the kitchen. They might risk scorching this thing. They might not want all the high maintenance that this thing takes to clean both the inside and then polish the outside. This is really kind of a high maintenance pot. That said, it is fantastic. It's beautiful. And if you are like an expert level cook or you really want to upgrade your game, well, yeah, this is really great. But to be honest with you, I think for the majority of people, even myself included, except for the rare times that I use this pot, I think you're probably going to be better off just using like stainless steel, like this all-clad pan, or even something like this Maviel if you really want to up your game. Maviel does also make stainless steel pans like this in addition to tin, but I think the stainless steel stuff these days is just far more popular because, well, it's a lot lower maintenance. Now I want to hear from you. Do you have a tin-lined pot or pan? What do you think of it? I would love to know. Put that in the comments below. As for me, I'm really glad that I scored this pot. I think it was a great deal. And just to get a taste of what tin-lined cookware is all about was well worth it for, well, $25 in this case. Okay, trivia time. Last week I asked you to identify this thing, And many of you knew exactly what it is. It is a Vietnamese coffee maker. I think they're also known as a Fin. I actually got this on my trip to Vietnam last year. It was really cool, although I think it's missing a part. So I think there's like another filter or something. So maybe I'll just buy a new one and check it out. Do you use one of these things? If you do and you have any like comments on how to best use it, please put that below. Okay, for this week's kitchen tool trivia, boy, we got another odd one here. What could this thing be? Another weird looking device. If you know what this is or have a guess, put it in the comments below. I will let you know the correct answer next week. Hey, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Until next time, I hope you want to cook.